Here's my audience. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Bell, and I'm going to talk to you today about my favorite breakfast pastry, the Queen Amman. So, imagine that you're walking down the street in Paris, and you notice all of the locals going into a particular bakery, and you want to see what all the fuss is about. So you walk down, you open the doors, and you're instantly met with this really amazing smell of fresh baked pastries. Well, that was exactly my experience when I was in France, and I encountered the Queen Amman. So I had my first Queen Amman in Paris, France, and then I worked at a bakery in Béziers, France, where I learned how to make it. And once I learned how to make it, I made sure to incorporate it in every menu, especially for breakfast pastries, that I had when I was a pastry chef. So in today's speech, I will discuss exactly what the pastry is, its history and where it comes from, and also how it's gaining popularity in America. So first and foremost, the Queen Amman falls under a category of doughs known as laminated doughs. And what that exactly is a culinary preparation consisting of many thin layers of dough separated by butter and achieves its layering through a series of folding and turning. Throughout the entire process, your goal is to incorporate layers of air and then stretching the dough and the butter. So it begins with a kind of a slab of butter encased in the dough, and then it's closed, rolled, and then folded. According to the article that I read on chefsteps.com, the dough is almost identical to croissant dough, except the last few folds incorporate additional sugar and salt, and this is the mixture that creates the caramelized exterior and creates the crunch. The dough is then proofed and baked, and during the process you can see all of these beautiful layers in here that the butter starts to melt. And when it melts, it creates these air pockets that gives you this really fluffy texture on the inside of the Queen Amman, as you can see here. So to say this is a simple pastry is both true and false. It's simple in the fact that its only ingredients are flour, water, yeast, sugar, salt, and maybe some eggs. Of course, butter. But it takes somewhere around 4 to 6 hours to complete the entire process. And it takes a very skilled hand to know exactly what you're doing. But once you get it, I promise it's worth it. The pastry traces its lineage all the way to Brittany, France, which is a region that consists of a bunch of kind of sleepy coastal towns. The main export from Brittany is more famously known as the salt fleur de sel. So that's a finishing salt that a lot of pastry chefs use to finish up the bread. They use this salt as well for the Queen Amman's production. So according to an article on eater.com, the name Queen Amman means butter cake in the local dialect called Breton. And it's easy to see why. The dough has a butter ratio, butter to dough, of almost 1-to-1. So all of those flaky layers that we saw that were created during the folding process, that is our main reason for, I'm messing up right here. Shoot. Oh, darn.
Keep going.
Okay.
I'll edit it out.
I don't think I can.
I'm editing it.
All right. Where every region has specific foods, much like how we have crabs all over Maryland, but they're not really seen everywhere in America. Odds are, if people encountered this pastry in any other region but Brittany, they didn't know it by its true name. Oftentimes, the names are changed to reflect the local dialect to make it a little bit more French, because Breton is a Gaelic dialect. So, let's see here. All right. How did this pastry make it all the way to America, emerging as one of the most obscure but beloved pastries? Pretty sure you're asking yourself. Well, have you ever heard of the cronut? In 2011, pastry chef Dominique Gansel from Brittany, France, of all places, opened Dominique Gansel's Bakery. The menu features many mouth-watering options, but the cronut took the world by storm, becoming so popular that large chain operations, such as Dunkin' Donuts, started producing, frying, and selling their own version of the cronut. So now you may be thinking, well, what exactly does the cronut have to do with the Queen Amman? Well, it too was on the menu at Dominique Ansell's bakery when he opened. People would wait in line almost 2 hours just to get their hands on a cronut, not realizing that if you skipped the line, you could get a Queen Amman, and you didn't have to wait for 2 hours. But I promise you, it's well worth it. Once word got out about Dominique Ansell's Queen Amman, he calls it his DKA, other pastry chefs began making the pastries. In 2012, Food and Wine magazine named it the pastry of the year. A year after that, in 2013, Trader Joe's made a proof and bake version that you could buy from the freezer section. Starbucks even launched one with their artisanal pastry line called La Boulange. So Dominique continues his success, winning Best Chef of 2017, rated by Food and Wine magazine. And he shines light on the DKA by calling it out and saying that it is his favorite pastry, not the one he's most famously known for. And here's a picture of Dominique with the cronut, but even more delicious, the Queen Amman. And so they're sold in packs of 4 or 6, and I've come home with many a 4-pack. So in conclusion, we're now in 2018, and very few Americans know the pastry by its true name. That's because most bakeries change it here in America as well, opting for easier to recognize names such as the morning bun, caramelized croissant, or even queenie. But no matter what name it's called, I encourage you to try it. The only decision you need to make from here on out is whether you want to have it with coffee at breakfast time or with a scoop of ice cream for dessert. Thank you very much.